Okay, now we get.
Okay. Pledge of allegiance. We pledge
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. Here.
Mike Parker.
Here.
Roger Toll.
Present.
Jim Snyder.
Present.
Jim Lewis.
Thank you. Okay, consent agenda. I need a,
I'll move we pass the consent agenda, minutes of the regular meeting on June 15th.
Second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Kay Harrison.
Yes,
Mike Parker.
Yes.
Roger Toll.
Yes.
Jim Snyder.
Yes.
thank you. It's been approved. The consent agenda has been approved. Now, resolution 2217, appointing board of directors chair and other positions.
Okay. So usually we do this every 2 years. And for some reason, we got out of sync. I don't know
Okay.
exactly how that happened. So. The screen looks like that.
How do you want it to look?
Okay. Okay, anyway. So we're supposed to do this every 2 years, and typically we would do it on an election year, because that way we don't run the possibility that someone got appointed to a position and they didn't get reelected. And somehow we got out of sync, so I want to, even though we did it last year, I want to do it again this year and put us back on the right schedule. So our current chair is Kay, vice chair is Mike. What are our rate committee number 1 and number 2? Because Wayne was one of them.
I don't
If
have that
we can print that part out. Roger's one.
And Kay.
Yeah, Roger Kay. Anyway,
So Kay's just been on 1 year instead of 2.
with that,
Kay's just been 1 year instead
her
of 2.
current, yeah, she was appointed chair last year, this time, last July, and probably 2 Julys before that also. But so I guess what I'm wanting to do is just change the timing of it. And
To
of
make
course,
sure
if
we're
you
back
want
in
to change
sync,
positions
right.
also, we can do that. That's up to you, but you know. we
I
can do it now, and
nominate
then we
Kay
can
to
it
do
until 2 years.
another year.
Maybe 2.
Thank you, because I would like to.
Okay.
At least this time around.
Yeah, I was the alternate on the rate committee, but I don't remember who was the council of government. Is that you?
Council of
I
Governors
was,
was
but I
actually
haven't
Kay
been
as well,
going.
but
I haven't been able
I
to
go
make
to all meetings also.
Yeah.
Jim Lewis is the president of the Council of Governments, but he does that in his capacity as with Jacksonville.
So we're usually well represented
Yeah.
with Jim there and Amber Carlin. And I haven't been able to make it. I was going to start going again, and I just haven't been able to get into the
Yeah.
group again, either because of work or something else, so.
Yeah, I typically go to both the elected, it's not called elected officials, it's something different, but I go to
Tech,
the one that is the more important people, and then also.
more important people, okay.
Well, I'm good with the current slate that hasn't counted for all categories.
Okay.
But you're looking for a 2-year
Yes,
appointment, right?
yes.
Okay, so I interrupted your motion because you said 1
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
If you
So-
just want to extend it exactly as it is right now, it would be Kay as chair, Mike as vice chair, Roger and Kay as the regional rate committee representatives, and then everybody else on the council or on the board as alternates, and then Kay as the representative to the Council of Governments.
Great.
And
I so moved.
this is only for the next year.
Yes.
This, yeah,
Yep,
it is for 1 year because that gets us back
right.
on track. So.
Of course.
Okay, then I guess I steered you right.
It's okay, Roger, it wasn't a little confusing, but yeah, that's why it's only 1 year, because that gets it back
Yes.
on track.
course.
Okay, before there's a motion, I need to know,
I'll second.
before there's a motion, I need to know regional rate committee 1 and 2. So I can write it
Roger
down.
and Kay.
Okay. And then K is the cog.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Any other nominations?
Hearing none, nominations are closed. And this is for everything. This is for the representatives, the board chair, vice chair, everything. It's 1 year. And roll call, please.
Kay Harrison,
Yes,
Mike Parker,
Yes.
Roger Tom,
Yes.
Jim Snyder.
Yes.
thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Does this mean we keep Carl too?
That's to be determined.
All right. That done. Project updates. Zach,
That's Nick.
yeah, that's
He
what I
he
thought.
made it back.
All right, I'm getting there. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All
We're
right,
gonna, we're gonna yell for you.
all right. No, my knee's a little bum right now. It'll take a while to get back there.
Okay.
So starting at the top, this project, this has been on the Antelope Road rehab. This is a very, very large project. Yeah. Oh, if you want to scroll down, if you can, Carl, to the third page there, it's a very simple map. I started making a kind of a detailed one and then I realized there was just too much, but if you can see kind of the scope of this project, this is a big one. It's 1,500 feet of pipe, which the existing pipe ranges from 24 inches to 15 inches in diameter. It's an old concrete pipe. It's, a legacy pipe that was put in with the old Camp White. And, we're going to upsize a portion of it to 30 and then some of the other 18-inch pipes up to 24-inch. The hope is that through our analysis and in our flow analysis, we've had flow monitors out there for quite a few years now. So we've got a good amount of data that we can use to put into our model and see exactly our capacity needs. But the hope is we won't have to bore across the highway. That's pretty much the long and the short of it. So we can go ahead and line that pipe across the highway and we don't have to deal with that because that would be a huge expense. But in general, it's going to take a few years to complete. But now that we have a little bit of more horsepower in the engineering department with our staff engineer Dashin and our designer Craig, Craig's been working on this and he's got a pretty good dent in it already. He's making some headway with some of the utility coordination, as well as we have one railroad crossing, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, but back when you guys had crossed this railroad out there before, it was a small railroad that the White City
Yeah,
local ownership.
yeah, it's White City Railroad, and they are tiny. They just have a little bit where it comes out and it connects to the regular railroad somewhere else, but.
Yeah, unfortunately, we just found out today that portion of that railroad's been sold or acquired by Genesee and Wyoming, who is the major railroad conglomerate who owns the vast majority of the tracks around the valley. And I've dealt with them in the past and they are not fun to deal with. So we're going to try to get out ahead of that. Just for instance, just the submittal to start the conversation costs $4,500, non-refundable. Just to talk, just to submit the plans. It's not a fun process, but anyways, so much more to come on this project. So going down West Glenwood Pump Station, there's no movement there. We're still waiting on a panel. Shady Cove Pump Station 6, we've got DEQ approval on this project. And unfortunately, we're likely going to be in the same position as the West Glenwood Pump Station here shortly, because it's basically the same system. which requires the same panel to run. But we'll just put on our order and wait, I guess. Brophy Pump Station abandonment, that project is complete. We're working out the details of some of the unforeseen trenching, unstable trenching that happened out there. We had a lot of additional materials that were shipped in because the trench was, 2 or 3 times as wide as planned, just because of the unstable conditions and the dewatering and so on. The contractor is being a little bit difficult. He's asking for quite a bit of extra money, which we're not going to entertain at this point. We just can't do it. But there'll be more to come on that as far as the change order is concerned. Shady Cove Pump Station number 2, that one's been kind of waiting in the wings for us to take a look at. Byless Siphon abandonment. This project was identified and has been on here for a couple months. The design is more or less, it's probably 80% complete. Unfortunately on this project, it's right in the middle of 4 corners down the street here, and that'll be all night work. And I'm sure Carl might mention this here in his report, but unfortunately we're losing our most seasoned inspector to, I guess, life, I suppose. He's had a long distance relationship for a few months now, and I think his partner is turning the screws on him to move up to McMinnville, which he's going to be doing shortly. And he's already got a job, and I mean, we're pretty happy for him, but that's a real big loss for us. He's very good at what he does, so he's going to be hard to replace. But that being said, we're left with 1 inspector, and this will all be night work, and we just don't have the inspection capacity right now to see this one through in the near future. So we're going to shelve it and hopefully do it next year. The lagoon process and wetland improvements, the contractor's been moving a little bit out there. We're waiting on a geotechnical report from his geotech to specify how they're going to place some of the imported material, because it had a little bit more clay than we were hoping. So what we want from them is to provide some technical expertise as far as how to place that in a way that it's going to hold up over time. So we're basically putting it back on them to provide that. And then once they get that, I anticipate they're going to start moving on that pretty hot and heavy. So sorry about the long-winded report this time, but that's all I've got.
Oh, one question, if I could, just my own education. On the project with the map, there's 2 ends to it. Where those connect in, are the pipings all okay, and that's why you stopped at that particular point? Or are there larger projects on both ends of those that are going to have to be done eventually?
Oh yeah, good question. So the one down on the left side of your screen there, that project was completed quite a few years ago. Carl did that. Do you remember when that was, Carl?
The one from Pacific Avenue to the treatment plant, that was done in the early 2000s.
Yeah. So that's to answer your question. That was the project on that end of it, and on the other end, once you get past basically to the east side of the highway, it kind of just ends up being that pipe is old and it just needs to be replaced. That's kind of our anticipation. We'll see what our analysis of the capacity needs say, but we're anticipating that pipe can just be rehabbed with CIPP liner and won't need to be upsized.
Okay, so this is a major project and both ends are basically okay in one way or another.
Yeah.
This is just the middle of the thing. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Kind of the last of the old Camp White.
So it's not great. It's not that we're having super difficulties with it. We just want to make sure that we don't have.
It's parts of it are slightly undersized, but it is just a really, it's 1940s. So how long is that? That's like
8 years.
That's
It was yesterday for some of us.
Right back.
I have a question for Nick.
Yeah,
Who's the contractor on the Brophy pump station?
Pilot Rock.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. For full disclosure, their original change order request was half of the cost of the project. So I think the project was a little over 300,000, and they requested $168,000, which is just, it's almost like a slap in the face, but you know, you can't get emotional about it. So
There were some ground conditions and the trench got really wide and he wanted to put in a claim for what, two weeks of all of their expenses plus a whole lot of, it was a little.
yeah, it was pretty unreasonable. But the thing about it is they finished within the allowable time per the contract. So it's kind of it was a weird request at a minimum.
Is there justifiably some?
Yes. Yes.
It's just-
Yeah, we have a metric that we've used in the past to calculate additional materials, and it's pretty straightforward. It's measurable, and it's very clean as for the way we do it. You basically just pay for the additional materials. The city allowed us to put rock backfill as opposed to slurry, so it's the additional materials less the amount of slurry that we would have paid for. So that's got basically a credit back to us. And I think at the end of the day, our calculation was depending on the adjustment of the price for excavation, which is hard to measure and quantify. It's going to be somewhere between 35,000 and 55,000. And for scale, that they request $160,000+.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Good question. Okay, thanks, Nick. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, stormwater update, Jenny?
All right, I'm trying to keep this short for you guys. Just a few things. Our Rogue Valley Stormwater Quality Design Manual that we've been working on with a regional working group for the last 3 years. We've completed the process of revising the text on that. And the design manual is now out for a required public comment period until September 2nd. If any of you are interested, you can certainly go to the webpage I put together, which has our design manual on there. You can download the document. There's information as well about how to submit comments on the design manual. I sent out that notification to over 100 stakeholders, including engineers, architects, landscape architects, environmental groups, local jurisdictional staff. And we're having a public meeting next Thursday to go over the primary changes. So the timeline that we have going forward is kind of, I guess, starting at the end. Our permit says that we have to have this implemented by February 28th of 2023. So that's coming up here in 6 months or so. So ideally, we would have everything done sooner, but this is kind of like the worst case scenario where in January of next year, we bring this design manual to you guys for approval, and it will also on that same day go to the Stormwater Advisory Team for the SWAT approval. We need both of those approvals to be able to implement the manual. So kind of working backwards from between our end of our public comment period on September 2nd and between January, the working group will be going over any comments that we may receive and revising language in there as is needed, and then finalizing that to come for approvals in January. So that's what we're looking at. Regarding public education outreach, we did a couple events in June. Our stormwater technician went to the Soil Water Conservation District's Natural Resource Day Camp, which we've been doing for years and years. And he came up with an activity there to have the kids build their own stormwater filters to take home. And then he also attended City of Phoenix's Dog Days of Summer event last weekend and was talking about, proper pet waste and lawn care practices. And then last month, you guys approved the donation to the Rogue River Watershed Council, and I just attached the thank you letter that they sent. And that's all I have for you.
There's a dog days of summer after you'd already finished. I'm sorry. I was a little late.
Thank you, Jenny. All right, O&M updates, Shane.
Good afternoon. Collector system rotational footages, video inspect 83,605 feet. And excuse me, actually we flushed 83,605 feet. Those are backwards, and video inspected 38,480 feet. We've been down a person, so we've only been able to roll one TV van out. And this is time of year where we ramp up our root sawing. So we have both of those flusher trucks out. Special cleaning flushed 6,704 feet, and there's the root sawing at 3,869 feet. Lagoons is a little down this month. A couple things going on, and Carl, you might be able to speak of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think there was a dissolved oxygen issue at the lagoons, which created a time where we had to shut it down a little bit or back off. So there's a significant decrease in the fog, which is at 17,840 gallons. Septage is down 164,400 gallons, and this is the time our biggest pumper that does land application throughout the year, so they're not dumping as much with us. And then significant uptick in the porta potty waste at 61,745 gallons for a total revenue of $36,597.75. Gold Hill flushed 1,616 feet on special cleaning. And then our special cleaning summary, 34.5 equipment hours and 92.5 labor hours are spent on special cleaning for a total cost of $7,297.50. And that's a result mainly of the root sawing, because it does take quite a bit of time to do that work. Pump stations are all quiet, nothing to report there. Building and grounds. Our HVAC units are aging, and they're just a bit over 20 years. So the one that supplies nice cool air to the front office went out, and we had to replace it. The one that supplies the room you're in and this side of the office is having some problems, and we're waiting on some parts to get it. And because of the supply chain issue, we won't have the parts available to install until the end of July, early August. So that leads me to our next item, is that going forward for the next fiscal year, we're going to be adding into our capital for preparing to replace the entire HVAC system in the front office building in the next budget cycle. And Carl got I think he's got a line on person, and we're going to have some stuff engineered. So probably have anything to add to that as far as timeline, because it's going to have to be a time sensitive project, because you're going to have to shut this place down probably to do that work, and you don't want it to be too hot, you don't want it to be too cold. So it's going to have to be, and then you got the supply chain issues on top of it all. So it's going to be a delicate balancing act to get this work performed and make everybody comfortable at the same time.
There's some new regulations coming down about HVAC units from the state of Oregon we might want to check into. So not only are you going to have supply chain issues, possibly you might have regulation issues too. So we might want to check into that and try to get everything done as soon as possible.
Right, and we're complying with the new regulations already. We were able to
I should have known you were on top of it.
We got these giant filters in there right now. But yeah, so with a building like this, it does require to have a mechanical engineer do the design for it.
Yeah, everything's a lot more expensive than it used to be, and a little bit more complicated.
Was the repair period 1 day or was it like a week or, you know, heavy?
Well,
Yeah.
there's stuff that needs changed up above with the ductwork and everything, that just, the way, we've made some changes to the building, put some walls up and things like that, and so, we get, like, my office is gonna be 85 degrees while James' office is gonna be 60. I mean, it's, there's weird stuff that goes on that, we need to make some changes up above to balance that out, so it's not, you don't have that crazy, weather patterns inside.
I was just asking that about, disruption to your staff. And
Oh,
work from home.
I think we'll be able to work through that, because it is mostly gonna be up in the attic, so, we'll hear them banging around up there, but they're not gonna be in our workspaces.
Okay, cool.
It will be eventually.
Okay,
All right, and vehicles and equipment, we're still waiting on the completion of the second dump truck. It's in process at the upfitters installing the dump bed assembly. We're expecting it to be delivered this month. It got hung up in Texas. We didn't have a way to get it up here, so that delayed it. And then obviously that delayed the schedule at the upfitter, so we got bumped, but it's almost done. So it should only be another week or two. We should have it. That's all I have.
okay, any questions of Shane?
No, we're good, thank you.
Thanks, Shane. Okay.
My turn.
And Managers report.
Okay, so we don't have a whole lot here. We did our resolution on the board chair. Give me an update on Gold Hill. Short story is they still haven't made any decisions. They at one point decided that it would be a good idea to visit some other treatment plants just to get a sense of what the operation of the plant is like. So three of the counselors took a tour, and they came out to Shady Cove. They visited the Medford plant and they visited the Road River plant. And I think, at least gave them some exposure to that sort of thing. They still have not made any kind of decision on how they want to proceed with, fixing their plant. And they're still looking at abandoning it and building a pipeline to connect to the regional system. There's some people in the council, that express support for that. They're still considering trying to rebuild it, and I guess they're also looking at the possibility of not doing it as a project, just like they've got another operator that would come in and operate the plant and just make incremental changes to it over the next 10 years or so to try to, we're not at all interested in that option. So at their last council meeting, I didn't go to it, but I watched it on TV. They did talk, I made an offer to them that I would go and just kind of give them a full presentation of everything for a council work session. They talked about that a little bit, but they haven't, they talked about scheduling it, but I haven't heard anything back about whether or not they want to do that. So I don't know exactly where they are on this. I did ask DEQ where they are with their requirements, because they were supposed to last September have submitted their design report for whatever option they've chosen to do. And they still haven't made a decision on what option they're going for. And so DEQ has them in the queue for their enforcement action of some sort, but it hasn't risen to the top yet, so it hasn't become an issue yet. But it's still all up in the air, I guess, is the bottom line on that. I'm trying to give them as much information as I can and trying to gently push them to make a decision, because it's still their decision to make. It hasn't happened yet.
Is DEQ gonna stand for them bringing a guy in for 10 years that's gonna?
I don't think so, but I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, DEQ's put up with a lot,
Yeah.
and they haven't, like I said, I mean, they're almost a year out of compliance with the MAO right now. And nothing's come of it, so I
Is
don't,
DEQ still short-staffed?
I'm sure they are, yeah.
Yeah, almost everybody
Yeah.
is, so.
So, potentially at some point within the next month or so, I'm gonna go back to the council and give them another presentation. And, try to get them to make some kind of decision. But again, it's all in their court. They have to make some kind of call. So that's that. We do have executive session scheduled today to do a performance review. I don't know if you want to do that with Jim Lewis absent or not. We can just take that time just to talk. we can, there's plenty to talk about. So that's up to you guys.
With Golden Hills, that's still something blocked at cost. They don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, the cost is a big, it's huge because they're looking at, in the range of about, $8 million for a town of 1,200. And, the math, there's just no way to make that math work.
It doesn't pencil well.
Yeah. Hopefully they could get some kind of really good favorable financing. I will tell you this, on a somewhat related topic, with the collection system revolving loan fund, fund stormwater projects. I've got a meeting with our, what they're called, I call her my handler. But that manages the program for us. But they have a rulemaking meeting next Friday. They're going to do some adjustment, and one of the things they're going to talk about is increasing the levels of loan forgiveness.
Increasing what?
The levels of loan forgiveness. So right now, we've applied for 3 loans for 3 different projects that are ongoing. And the reason we're doing that is because we have this hope that part of that's going to get forgiven. And the rules right now put a cap on that at $500,000. But here in October, when the infrastructure law goes into effect, they're going to get, I think it's in the order of about $20 million a year for 5 years. Something. I mean, it's a significant amount of money. And so I guess they're looking at increasing that cap. How far they go, I don't know. I'm going to comment on it, and my concern is that if they increase the cap too much, you're going to get just a few borrowers that are going to suck up all the money, and the rest of the people that, the smaller organizations are going to get shut out of it again. So
I think your concern is warranted.
yeah, and I've been banging that drum for a while, so it's not going to come as a surprise to them when I comment on it, but hopefully they'll take that into consideration.
It'd be nice if they consider, but I'm not sure what the rules are of how they consider who should get the forgiveness, but it seems like to me, small entities.
Yeah, it's targeted towards economically disadvantaged areas.
Yeah.
So they have
What does that mean?
they have like a metric of it.
Yeah.
They identified counties, and our county is in that category. So anybody in Jackson County is eligible for it. And up to this point, what they were telling me is that everyone who's been eligible has gotten it. And part of that, I think, is because you put this $500,000 limit. So, you get a place like Bend that is borrowing $40 million to rebuild their treatment plant. Well, if you take that limit away and they're eligible, and all of a sudden they get $40 million, that's 2 years of all the funding, and it's gone.
Yeah.
So
I've seen that happen with transportation stuff.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, because it's, if your job is to give out money and you can do it all in one project.
Makes it easy for
you're done.
you.
That takes the rest of the year off. So yeah, they haven't, DEQ, I think, has a strong incentive to try to give out bigger grants to fewer people because it's just less work on their side of it. Whereas from our perspective, I think it's you're better off giving smaller ones to more because it's, you know, better for everyone.
Has Gold Hill applied for any grants? Or are they just kind of sitting back waiting to see what happens?
So 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, they went and had their one-stop meeting with the Infrastructure Finance Authority. And they kind of laid out the different scenarios for them, but they still hadn't made any decision on which option they were going to do. So they couldn't apply for anything because they didn't have a project to attach it to.
Yeah. You have to have a project in order to
Yeah.
apply for a grant. You have to know what the heck.
Yeah. So they're you know, they're hesitant to make a decision because the costs are enormous and they're afraid to commit to something. But they can't know what kind of financing thing they're going to get until they've actually made that decision. So they're just gonna tail around that.
Or you may have said this before, but I mean, aren't they probably just waiting till DEQ, someone forces them to do something?
I don't know.
Because they don't have anything to lose
That could
right now,
yeah.
right? So,
That's a fair point. I mean, you know, DEQ is not forcing the issue on them, and we're there keeping them, you know, they're not violating their permits because, you know, we've kept this place running pretty well. So, you know, it's working one change. I mean,
Yeah.
if there is a.
And there's that.
Yeah. But we did only give them 1 more year, so something has to happen by then.
Unless we give them another year.
Yeah, well, that'll be your decision.
Put a clock in their office with the countdown down to day 0
Yeah.
by the days, months, and minutes.
Yeah.
good idea.
Okay,
So on your, the second part of your question was the manager's review, right?
yes,
So, I mean, I would say Jim wasn't here the whole year when Carl was here anyway, and it seems like we have time. We're not, you know, we're not short of time at the meeting today, and so I'd say just do it.
If Roger has time, I'm good with doing it.
okay, all right, well, we can, I would say let's go ahead and do the claims and then we'll go into executive session and
Okay,
take care of that.
all right. So I want a motion to pay.
Full motion, we paid the bills.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Jim.
roll call, please.
Kay Harrison,
Yes.
Mike Parker,
Yes.
Roger Toll,
Yes.
Jim Snyder.
Yes.
Okay,
You want to read the script and then I'll shut off the recording and.
Yep.
Will you executives while we?
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Mike, we'll see you next time.
Mike,
adios, Senior Mike. Have a good day.
You bet.
Well, you
Okay.
can come back when you're back out of session again.
Yeah. I can do that.
You'd like to see you one more time.
Yeah, but before we go,
The RVSS Board of Directors will now meet in executive session to review and evaluate performance of an officer, employee, or staff member if the person does not request an open meeting. This reason for executive session may not be used to do a general evaluation of agency goals, objectives, or operation, or any directive to personnel concerning these subjects. Representatives of the news media and designated staff should be allowed to attend an executive session. That's Joan. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report any of the deliberations. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back. Okay.
okay, I'm going to stop the recording. Shut this down.